Hey there folks, welcome to the channel. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about what happens when your salami casing is no longer sticking to your salami meat. You know, when it becomes completely separated. Is it still safe to eat? What causes it? How do you prevent it? What you need to be aware of before you eat it? We're going to cover all those questions in today's episode. Let's go over to the chamber and let's take a peek at a particular salami that this just recently happened to, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. Let's open up our dry curing cabinet. This is from the sausage maker, and check out this salami casing, completely separated. Is it salvageable? That's what we're going to find out. All right, here we go. Here is our salami, and as you can see, our casing has completely separated. I mean, there may be one or two spots that it's still connected, but for the most part, this casing has separated from the salami. And so let's talk about what causes this. The most common reason that something like this happens is fat smear. Somewhere along the way through the process of you making salami, the fat could have smeared, and it doesn't have to be a severe case. It could be just a very mild case. And what happens is a very thin layer of fat gets between the casing and the meat, and that prevents the casing from properly adhering. You'll know if that's the case if when you cut into your salami, it feels a little oily. So if that's the reason you have casing separation, what I would recommend you doing is immediately sharpen your grinder plate and your knife for your grinder. You could check out a video right here on how we did it. It's super effective, super easy to do, and it does make a drastic improvement. And so that's the first thing that I'll look at when dealing with this. Another cause for casing separation is high humidity. When you ferment your salami during that 12 to 72 hour period, if the humidity is too high, then a very thin layer of moisture can build up between the salami and the casing, which will also prevent it from adhering properly. Now for me, whenever I ferment salami, I typically wrap it in cling film, and so our humidity is always through the roof. Realistically, we only need about 88–90% humidity in order for proper fermentation to occur. And so that really high humidity on rare occasions could cause this to happen. We'll find out a little more when we cut into it. Let's do that now. Let's go ahead and just cut that right down the middle here. And see what's going on. Okay, look at that. So we can see here that I'm still a little soft in the center. And when we remove the casing, right, let's go ahead and just remove that casing. Here we go. You know, the thing that we're going to want to look for if a situation like this happens is bad mold. I mean, you've got that air pocket between the casing and the salami, and right there, that's where mold can grow, but it seems like we have only the beneficial mold available. Now, because we did have that air pocket and it wasn't completely tight, you could see that right around the edges, we've got a bit of a darker ring. Okay, so it didn't dry evenly, and then right here in the center, it's a little soft. Okay, a little bit soft. So whenever I squeeze it, I can definitely feel a difference between what's going on the outside and on the inside. So let's go ahead and remove this one. See, the edges are a little bit firmer. Let's just go ahead and cut a piece. So there we go. So we got a nice bind on it, and it does actually feel a little greasy. Let me put it on a piece of paper towel right here. See what happens. Kind of give it a little, see if we can get a little fingerprint, a little grease print from this thing. Ah, look at that. Okay, so you can see that I am a little oily on this particular salami. Our Genoa salami, let's take a closer peek. Look at that right there. Little dry ring around the edge. Is this edible? Well, that's a question that we get a lot, and so let me share with you a couple things that you can look for when determining whether a potentially questionable salami is edible. And before we get into those tests, I just want you to know that these tests will apply if proper safety hurdles were achieved during the salami making process. So what are those safety hurdles? Well, you would have salted your salami between 2 to 3%. Your salami would have been cured properly, whether you're using a Instacure number 2, an EcoCure, a celery powder, a beet powder, things like that. The pH after fermentation would have been below 5.3, and you would have lost at least 30% weight. So these are considered the safety hurdles. And so if all of these safety hurdles were achieved, here are the tests. First test is to check the meat itself. Does the meat have any strange color? You know, does it look green? Does it look white? Is it wet looking? Is it slimy? Does it have a mushy texture? These are all visible characteristics that something might have went wrong during the salami making process. And if any of these apply, if only one applies, then I wouldn't risk it. Go ahead and toss your salami in the bin. But it looks like we have an absolutely gorgeous color outside of a little dry ring around the edge. Not a big deal. It's not slimy. It's not mushy. And it certainly doesn't look wet. So we're going to move on to test number 2, and that is the smell test. Does it pass the old sniffer? Let's give it a smell. Okay. All right. So what we're looking for is slightly sweet, slightly acidic, a fermented meat smell. All of these smells are very pleasant. If it smells foul or rotten or off in any way, go ahead and just toss it. Test number 3, is there any unwanted or unrecognizable molds on the exterior of your salami? If you happen to have unwanted molds growing on the outside of your salami, I wouldn't risk it. Now, what are unwanted molds? At this point, you know, unless you're a mycologist, I would stick with the tried and true Penicillium nalgiavense. That's that beautiful white mold that grows on salami. Even if you're using cheese molds, that's okay, like the Camemberti, those are totally fine. But your reds, greens, blues, your yellows, if you have any of that growing on the outside of your salami, I wouldn't risk it as well. And so at this point, we don't have unwanted molds. The meat smells nice, sweet, slightly fermented, and it is not mushy. And so at this stage, albeit a lot softer than I would typically prefer, this is completely safe to eat. So we're going to give this a little bite to see how it tastes. Outer edge is a little tough, but that is absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious. And I can totally feel, I don't know if you could see my fingers. They are definitely on the oily side. And so we have now narrowed down the problem to why did our casing separate? And it's because more than likely I need to sharpen my grinder plate and my grinder knife. This is a great reminder that that should be part of a preventative maintenance program that we do every 3 months, every 6 months, really depending on how much meat you grind. But this is not a waste. This is totally going to be a delicious cooked salami that we're going to add to all sorts of dishes. And so that meat does not have to go to waste. And there you have it, folks. I hope this video helped you out. Just remember, all hope is not lost. If the casing separates from your salami, you might even get a little oxidation, and that's where the color looks a little grayer than normal. That's totally fine too. That's just a condition of how the oxygen reacts with the meat. Now, you could remove the casing, wrap your salami in a collagen sheet if you catch it soon enough, but if the cause of the problem is smeared fat, that collagen sheet won't stick either. All right, so make the assessment once you lose the appropriate amount of weight, whether you can move forward to eating the salami or whether you have to chalk this up to a lesson learned. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching this video. Give it a great big thumbs up if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe for more salami making tips. Thanks a lot for being here. We'll see you in the next one.